When King Jehoram takes the throne of Israel, he makes a distinct and visible break from his father's legacy. He actively removes the sacred Baal pillars Ahab had erected, signaling an end to the state-sponsored worship of his predecessor. Yet this reform is selective. While he discards the new idols, he maintains the golden calves established generations earlier by Jeroboam. He attempts to move forward while refusing to dismantle a compromised spiritual foundation. This reflects the weight of inherited tradition. A practice or superstition is often maintained simply because it's familiar, passed down from one generation to the next without any real scrutiny of its impact. By keeping these older idols, Jehoram remains tied to the very errors he claims to have moved past. This partial obedience leaves his leadership vulnerable, lacking the structural integrity needed to survive a genuine crisis. That crisis arrives when the vassal state of Moab rebels. They suddenly stop their massive tribute to Israel, cutting off an annual supply of sheep and wool that formed a cornerstone of the regional economy. The Moabite stone provides a physical, historical record of this uprising, confirming the scale of the defiance from Moab's own perspective. Jehoram calculates that a direct attack from the north would leave his border exposed to Aram. He forms a three-nation alliance with Judah and Edom, choosing a long southern route that swings entirely around the Dead Sea to strike from an unexpected direction. This strategy requires a massive army to march through a sun-scorched, waterless wasteland, a region where survival depends entirely on logistics and favorable weather. The kings move forward with a plan that is tactically sound on paper, yet they do so without ever seeking divine counsel. They focus on their own maneuvers, realizing only too late that their logic has led them into an environment they cannot control. After 3 days of marching through the Edomite wilderness, the plan collapses. The water runs out, leaving the coalition army stranded in the heat. Jehoram immediately assumes the worst. He claims that God has specifically led these 3 kings into the desert for the sole purpose of handing them over to Moab for slaughter. King Jehoshaphat of Judah views the situation differently. In the face of failure, he asks if there is a prophet of the Lord present, looking for a perspective that his own counsel missed. This is the pattern of afterthought faith, the choice to forge ahead with a flawed design and only call for a rescue once the consequences become unavoidable. The crisis exposes the foundation of each man's leadership. For Jehoram, self-reliance ends in fatalistic despair. For Jehoshaphat, a history of faith leads him to search for the truth. They find the prophet Elisha, who meets Jehoram with total disdain. He tells the king to go consult the false prophets of his parents, the very idols Jehoram refused to fully abandon. Elisha makes it clear that his only reason for intervening is a regard for Jehoshaphat's genuine commitment to God. Before delivering a message, Elisha makes an unusual request. He asks for a musician to play the harp. Elisha's request highlights a dynamic found throughout these narratives: the use of music to quiet the atmosphere and prepare the heart for revelation. As the notes resonate, the panic of the camp fades, allowing the prophet to focus on the Spirit's direction. Elisha then delivers the prophecy: God will fill the dry valley with pools of water, without a single drop of rain or gust of wind, and Moab will be delivered into their hands. The coming rescue bypasses the rules of the natural world, requiring a harp instead of a weapon, and providing water without a storm. It demonstrates that the survival of the army rests on God's provision rather than the king's military prowess. The following morning, the miracle occurs. Water flows into the arid valley, providing the life-saving resource the army could not find for themselves. This provision also acts as a weapon. From the heights, the red sunrise reflecting off the sudden pools creates a visual illusion of a valley filled with blood. The Moabites assume the 3 kings have turned on each other. Believing the coalition has already destroyed itself, they break their formation and rush down into the camp to plunder the remains. Their own greed and assumptions become a trap. What served as vital provision for one army is transformed into a blinding distraction for the other. The Israelite forces counterattack immediately, routing the disorganized, scrambling Moabites and driving them back to their fortified capital city. At the climax of the siege, the king of Moab reaches a state of total desperation. He sacrifices his own eldest son as a burnt offering on the city wall, an act visible to the entire coalition army. The campaign ends in an abrupt and unsettling retreat. A great wrath falls upon the coalition, causing the three kings to abandon their victory and return to their own lands. Whether this wrath was a specific divine judgment or an internal fracturing caused by the horror of the Moabite king's act, the result was the same: the alliance shattered. God may provide mercy in the middle of a disaster, but an alliance built on partial obedience and afterthought faith lacks the character to see a victory through. True success requires seeking direction before the march even begins.